What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? Today we're doing something that's been requested by a couple of my viewers. They wanted to see the deck tech video for Grand Arbiter since I actually never actually managed to do that, even though I've posted over 21 videos of the deck. So I actually made a playlist for the deck, so if you wanted to just look at only the Grand Arbiter games that I played with the Grand Arbiter, I'll link that in the video, maybe even link it right now. And this will be added to that playlist. So let's start it off, because they always take way too long when I make these decks. So Grand Arbiter, he's a legendary creature, human advisor. It's kind of weird that advisor. I don't know, is there any cards that matter with advisor? Who knows, but he costs 2 colorless, white, blue. White spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Blue spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast. So the reason I was originally drawn to Grand Arbiter is because I liked kind of like ramping out into bigger spells. And he makes your white and blue spells cheaper, so he's kind of like, he does exactly what you want. I like the art, I like the bluey purple background, and I don't know, I just like this card. It is really unfun to play against. I can imagine people don't like to see it on the other side of the table, so it's kind of a deck that you have to be prepared for people either not wanting to play against you, or they'll play like, they'll try and play against you, but if you just hit Grand Arbiter on turn 2, then they might just leave. So you know, that will happen. So anyways, let's go and start out. We'll start out with our lands. Well, this is our non-basic land slot. We're running 37 land, and usually that's good enough. So we have Ancient Tomb, Dark Our Waste, so it's the pain land in white and blue. Causes you damage if you tap it for colored mana. Celestial Colonnade, don't attack with it that often, just because usually you're trying to hold up some kind of a trick, but it has been pretty effective. It stops people from attacking into you, and can protect, you know, your planeswalkers and such. Flooded Strand gets you a white or blue, obviously. Glacial Fortress, really good. Sometimes it's awkward when you have like hands with Glacial Fortress and Thawing Glaciers, and either one you play is coming into play tapped, and then you need you can't even activate the Thawing Glaciers the next turn because you don't have an island or a plains. Doesn't happen too often. Hallowed Fountain, pretty much you always fetch out either Hallowed Fountain or a Tundra first with your fetch lands, just because they're plains and islands, so they're really good. I like this Hallowed Fountain art. I think the other one's a little bit better, but it was like 12 tickets or something, so I didn't get it. And this is, you know, people were drafting Ravnica, so it's gotten pretty cheap. And this art's pretty cool. I just don't like how the buildings around the fountain kind of sequester it. The other one was a little bit more open, and it reminded me of the Louvre, like the Louvre Versailles in French architecture. Nimbus Maze, I like this card too. This card's pretty cool. I wish they printed more cards like this, like a cycle of them. They never really quite got there in Future Sight. So what does this card do? It adds white if you have an island, and it adds blue if you have a plane. So it kind of gives you the mana that you don't have if you don't have both of them. So that can be very good. It also can be annoying if you want to play Counterspell and you play an island and then you only have a Nimbus Maze. You can't actually play Counterspell. Seachrome Coast. So people say that these aren't good in Commander. I disagree. They're fine. People play Guild Gates and the Refuges from Zendikar, the uncommon duels that come to play tapped and gain you 1 life. I feel like this is just gonna be better than those cards. I don't play those cards, but this always has a chance to come into play untapped, while the come to play tapped always lands don't, and that's why I don't like them. Tundra, obviously, it's probably the best land in the deck. There you go. Polluted Delta, Windswept Heath gets a white, this gets a blue. Scalding Tarn gets a blue. Arid Mesa, obviously. Aganjo Castle, so I just got this because I kind of like the card. I haven't ever really had the claws be I haven't had the claws like where I use this come up. I think this would be better like in the Geist of St. Traff deck. But I like it, and I mean, it does die to Ruination, Tech Edge, and Wasteland, but whatever, just play it. Halmar Depths, so it's pretty good. It works good with Future Sight. You know, play it on turn 1, it's fine. I wouldn't keep like 1 land Halmar Depths lands, those are kind of sketchy. But, you know, Core Haven is actually pretty good. It's different than Maze of Ith because you can't Core Haven, well, you can Core Haven your own guy, but like you can't untap it. Also, it does cost you 3 mana to use it, but it is really good. It's really good when like you have a Planeswalker in Core Haven and you want to hold up counters or something and you don't want to cast any spells, but Yeah, there you go. Craven. It is legendary, so you have to be careful, although the new legendary rule is going to stop people from wastelanding you with copied land or Vesuva. Reliquary Tower. So sometimes you just really want Reliquary Tower when you're drawing 20 cards with Jace. I don't have any ways to search out lands, but you're just trying to hope that you draw into it. And there you go. And actually, you can get Reliquary Tower for free at some of the free bots, because there's so many of them out there. So in case you need one, go and check it out. Strip Mine. Strip mines things. Gets rid of problem lands like Glacial Chasm and Cabal Coffers, and I will kill Urborg. If you play Urborg, I'm just going to kill it because it's really annoying. I hate tapping for black when I don't have black in my deck. So, and then Thawing Glacier. So Thawing Glaciers I'm not completely sold on. I don't know what you guys think, but sometimes you play turn 1, you activate it, and you have to discard it anyway, so you didn't really get any card advantage out of it. But it's okay. I mean, it helps you shuffle your deck, thin it out a little bit. But not really excited about it. It's something you could cut, especially if this might be expensive on Paper Magic. I'm not really sure. So our artifact ramp, we've got Mana Crypt. It lets you play turn 2 Arbiter. It lets you play turn 1 like any of your 3 drops. Like, I don't know, what can you play? Rhystic Study. I actually played turn 1 Rhystic Study the other day. That game lasted about 10 seconds after that. Soul Ring. Zori's Signet, really good. Mind Stone, obviously still very good. All these 2-drop artifacts let you play Grand Arbiter 1 turn earlier, which is really good. Like, playing a Grand Arbiter on turn 3 versus turn 4 is just so powerful. Talisman of Progress, just another 2-drop. Worn Power Stone helps you play your bigger spells, and Coalition Relic fixes your mana a little bit and lets you play big spells. You can play a 6-drop the turn after this, which is pretty awesome. Don't forget to charge it, and then make sure you click the right mana. So this is our artifact enchantment removal. We've got Return to Dust. This card is like, I'm surprised more people don't play this because it's so backbreaking when somebody hits you with this and they get 2 things. Like, they'll get your like 6-drop enchantment and like an artifact, and it's really good. And then we have Dismantling Blow. I like this card a lot. Like, you have to try not to force yourself to wait till you can kick it. Sometimes you just need to disenchant something. It only costs 1 more than disenchant, so it's not a huge penalty. But like the drawing the 2 and killing an artifact or enchantment just usually is pretty awesome. And then we have Aura of Silence, so this works with Grand Arbiter. There are some, I played this against like a Sharoom deck, and he just was shut down so bad because I had this and then Grand Arbiter, and like all his artifacts and enchantments cost 3 more to cast, which is like half his deck, maybe even more. And then you can just cash it in to kill whatever they have if you need to. Also, this works with Sun Titan because it's a permanent. You can Aura of Silence, kill something, cast Sun Titan, get your Aura of Silence back, and leave it back on there. So it's pretty awesome interaction. So this is our spot removal. We don't really have much at all. We have Condemn, gets rid of those pesky commanders that can keep coming back. Path to Exile, and Swords. So I will Swords if someone plays like a Llanowar Elf, Birds of Paradise turn 1. I won't do that with Path because that's just stupid. I've seen people do that, so don't Path a Birds to Paradise on turn 1. It doesn't do anything. But there you have it. And Path to Exile is probably pretty cheap right now because it just got printed in Modern Masters. So Counterspell. These are our Counterspell slots. So we don't play that many despite what people probably think when they line up against you. Maybe my Grand Arbiter deck is a little bit different than most, but you know, there are definitely ways you can change the deck to suit you however you want to play. But Counterspell, Mana Drain. Obviously this card is insane. Hinder. Do have Hinder. One time I was playing against, there was some general, and I just kept having to counter it. I kept coming back because it was like a Naya deck. I think it might have been Earl. Like, this just shuts off Earl completely, pretty much, and oh, there you go, Hinder. And it also costs 2 when you have Grand Arbiter, so it looks like you just have a regular counterspell. Dismiss, so counterspell, drawing a card. It's like kind of Cryptic Command Light, because most people, when they play Cryptic, they play counter target spell, draw a card, so it's just a cheaper version, and it only costs 2 blue. Cryptic, obviously, this card is really good. Usually you counterspell, draw a card. Sometimes you use it to return a permanent to its owner's hands, or even tap all their creatures. And then we've got Force of Will. So yeah, Force of Will is obviously really good. You're not mono blue, so there are times where you don't have another blue card. But yeah, Force of Will. People don't like seeing that. Sometimes they'll make a comment about it, but whatever. So here's our card draw / filtering. We have Ancestral Vision. This is pretty good with Omniscience since you can just cast it without paying its mana cost. Since it doesn't have a mana cost, you just cast it, so draw 3 cards easy. Sensei's top, good with fetch lands, good overall. Helps you find answers, so it's definitely worth playing. Ponder, Preordain, pretty self-explanatory. Brainstorm. Brainstorm is a card that you kind of have to know how to play it to get the best effect out of it. Sometimes people just play it on turn 1. I can see doing that if you kept like a 1 or 2 lander, or maybe just kept a 1 lander with Brainstorm and like a 2-drop artifact, and I guess that's fine. So you make sure you can play that 2-drop artifact, but you want to try to Brainstorm. Brainstorm with land tax is pretty awesome because you can draw 3 lands off the land tax and then just Brainstorm them back into your deck and then draw them again. And not only that, but you basically just Ancestral Recall? Yeah, there you go. And then Crucible. So Crucible and Strip Mine are in here. Sometimes you just do it, not that you feel great about it, but it does help you stop from dying. I don't run a lot of counter spells, so you kind of have to sometimes stop the broken cards from doing broken things. But usually you're getting fetch lands back anytime. Sometimes people just kill your land, you know? Like you'll run to a mono red like land destruction deck. I have like Zosu the Punisher, and he just had a bunch of sorceries that killed lands, and you got Crucible, and then you're pretty good. Rhystic Study. So Rhystic Study obviously is good on its own. It's good in 4-player. It's fine in 1v1. And sometimes your opponents are just set up to like you can play around it. Like they'll have cultivated the turn before you played Rhystic Study, so then they're just like they can kind of ignore it. It doesn't do much. But with Grand Arbiter, they have to pay 2 extra for every spell, so it definitely slows people down, and it's worth playing. Future Sight, you know, it lets you get through your deck really fast. It does reveal the card to your opponent, but the card is so good. If you have to tutor an enchantment into play, usually it's either Future Sight or Omniscience. Usually Future Sight if you don't have any cards in your hand, because Omniscience doesn't do a whole lot without cards. And Blue Sun Zenith. So Blue Sun Zenith's really good. You can reuse it, get it back into your deck. I should probably have Sphinx's Revelation in here. When Sphinx's Revelation came out, it was only like maybe 5 or 6 tickets, and I was like, you know what, I don't really need that. It's probably not going to be that good. And I was like, it's not as good as Blue Sun Zenith, because Blue Sun Zenith you can get it back when you draw it later. Well, the thing about Sphinx's Revelation, if you don't know, is it's a white and a blue card, and I'm going to bring that card up for you. I mean, it sounds kind of obvious, but at the time it didn't seem obvious to me. I probably should have gotten it. Now it's like 40 tickets, which is a little too much for me to just, buy this card or whatever. So you gain X life and draw X cards. So it's very similar to Blue Sun Zenith, but with Grand Arbiter, since it's a white-blue card, it costs 2 less to cast. So you can basically, like, let's say you only paid white, blue, blue with Grand Arbiter on the battlefield, you could draw 2, even though you only paid 3 mana. And it's also at instant speed, and you would gain 2 life. So if you wanted to tap 7 mana into this altogether, so you'd pay 3 for the color commitment, you'd draw 2 off the Grand Arbiter tax, and then you would have 5. You would draw 7 cards with 7 mana, right? Am I getting that right? You know what I mean. Grand Arbiter makes this cost 2 less, so that's pretty awesome. So the same thing with Blue Sun, but it only costs 1 less. So if you only have 3 mana, you would only draw 1 card. So anyway, Sphinx's Revelation, if you have one, throw it in the deck. It's fine. So this is our Wrath slot. We don't have that many Wraths. Originally I had more. I ended up playing a lot of control decks, and just like having a Wrath kill like one creature kind of sucks. I feel like sometimes you just want a Wrath, and I should probably have at least 3. Probably Wrath of God, or maybe Terminus. I mean, I don't have a Wrath of God right now, but either one is fine. You can even just have Day of Judgment. But I like to be more proactive. Even with this deck, I like to just play creatures out that I like to play, and then Wrath isn't that great. And then Supreme Verdict can't be countered. Haliburial is just good against all the cards that are just doing a lot of recursion. Like if there's a Reanimator deck or a pesky commander that like Earl deck really has a hard time beating Haliburial. So it's one of your outs to that card. This is kind of our random slot. So we have Lightning Greaves, protect our commander, protect our good creatures. Good with like a card like Arcanus, Sun Titan especially, Drog Skull Reaver. Just protecting your cards is fine, and also cards that are beneficial to be attacking, like Drog Skull Reaver and Sun Titan and such like that. Bribery, There you go, Bribery. Obviously gets a card out of your opponent. This is a card, I think it's not a fun card to play against, but I think it's healthy for the format because it discourages people from playing all in mono and green Eldrazi's. Like, if I ever make a mono green deck, I'm sure I'll put like either one or two of the Eldrazi in it, and you know, it's going to get Bribery out, and that's going to suck, but it kind of discourages every deck from just slamming, you know, Ulamog or whatever into their deck, and, you know, that's fine, and I like that. Also, Terastodon, like, green. I've never seen a green deck really stick around too long after you Bribery out the Terastodon. Actually, it was funny yesterday. Was it this deck I was playing? I think it was. Some green deck Terastodon'd me, so I had like two of the clones, and I cloned it, and then I cloned it again. Killed all his land, though. It was pretty funny. I was like, I heard you like Terastodon. I really don't like Terastodon. Frozen Ether. So this is another good card with Grand Arbiter. Makes their artifacts, creatures, and lands come to the battlefield tapped, so they can't use their Soul Rings right away. They're already paying more, hopefully, because Grand Arbiter's on the battlefield. So it's basically making their spells cost even more, which is a good way to kind of lock people down, slow them down. Temporal Manipulation. So I do have one Time Walk in here. You could play any of them. It's fine. Like, it's not necessary, but it's in there. Treachery is pretty insane. Untapping 5 lands is just amazing. If you have Grand Arbiter, this only costs 4, so you can actually ramp with this card. If you needed to play a 6-drop that turn, you could actually just play Treachery as a ramp 1, still their creature. Another awesome thing with Treachery is if someone has a card like Sigarda, you can steal Sigarda with Treachery. You put Treachery on any creature, even your own. And if you have Venser, you can blink, exile the target permanent, return it to the battlefield under your control, and steal their Sigarda with Treachery and untap your lands again. I had done that to a Sigarda deck. It's going to be really hard to kill Sigarda once the new Legend rule comes out because she can't be cloned. But that's a way to get rid of her. It's also a way to get rid of any hexproof Shroud, like Geist of St. Trap General. It's pretty awesome because people don't really expect it. It's not a common thing that happens, and it's pretty tricky. And you can just do it on, like, even if you just have Treachery and Venser, just untap your lands at end of turn after you've cast a different spell. That way you can hold up a counter spell. Then we have Omniscience. So I like Omniscience. I know a lot of people don't. Sometimes it doesn't do much, or it gets Crossing Ripped, and that's fine, but it's good. We have Academy Rector, and that's the main way to get it out. Hard casting it, you know, you can get it on a 9-drop because you have Grand Arbiter, but that's not always reliable. Plus, by then, usually, you don't have many cards left to cast or protect it with. So here's our creature. So we have Toppin at the top. No, I'll start at the bottom, I guess. Snapcaster Mage. He's alright. Sometimes he just doesn't do a lot. I don't have that many counter spells and that many spot removals, so I should probably have more of this effect. But either way, he's fine. It's just recurring something. But sometimes he's just in my hand, not doing anything. I've had him be an Ambush Viper. I've had him ambush Liliana, so he does that as well. Phantasmal Image, obviously it's good. Cloning Generals, which you can't do for much longer, but pretty soon you'll be able to actually clone their general, which can be good as well. Gilded Drake. This card is pretty good. Also, it's pretty good with a lot of our cards like Venser. You can Gilded Drake, and since Gilded Drake's the card you own, you can actually Gilded Drake another creature. So you can steal 2 cards for the price of 1. Although the 3/3 flyer is good against your planeswalkers if you don't have a blocker out. Alright, Trick and Mage getting you either Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, or Top. Some people like to play the artifact lands. I really don't. People play a lot of artifact hate. I don't want my land drop to get naturalized, Stone Rained, so it's up to you. If you want to play the artifact lands, you can totally feel free. You could also play Relic of Progenitus if you want to, or Grafdigger's Cage if you have a lot of reanimation going on, but I don't know. I hate playing those cards because you just draw them and they don't do anything, but when they're good, they're really good. When they're not, they're just awkward and bad. So we have Venser. So Venser is a good spell because he can actually kind of sort of soft counter spells that can't be countered because he bounces them back to their hand. He doesn't actually counter them. You can do some tricky things with Venser. He's good with Venser, the Planeswalker, and that's one thing you can do is start bouncing lands if you want to be really mean, but you can do whatever you want. And he's just a good card. I like him a lot. This is actually my favorite card in Magic. Alright, Shakashima. So I got Shakashima for a while, a couple months ago, before all these legend rules were announced. So it's kind of sad that she's going to be less unique, because now pretty much all the clones are like that, except she can actually still copy. She's the only clone that can still copy her own legends. Like, she can copy like any legend, but I don't know. And she can be bounced, but it's only at end step. It's not instant speed. I guess that would have been too good. But yeah, my favorite thing is to have 2 Grand Arbiters on the battlefield, and all of your opponent's spells cost 2 more, plus you get Verstic Study, or it can get kind of silly, and that makes your spells wicked cheap. Like, it makes Drogskol Reaver cost 3 mana. Like, could you imagine having this with Sphinx's Revelation? Yeah, that'd be pretty nice. Alright, Glenelendra. Obviously, this card's really good with Venser. It just lets you hold up 1 mana to stop, like, some shenanigan, like Green Sun Zenith, or who knows what. Archaeomancer, so this card's kind of iffy. There's not, like I said, with Snapcaster, not a ton of spells. It does let you go infinite with the Time Warp, what's it called, Temporal Manipulation, and Venser. You can just infinitely cast them. It's not why it wasn't in the deck, but it can do that. The 1/2 isn't really relevant. It's cheaper than... If you're going to play a blue-red deck, it's cheaper than the blue-red... What's it called? It's a 2/2, and it costs 3 blue and red, and it does the same thing. I can't think of the name. Academy Rector. So Academy Rector is pretty awesome. People will try not to attack into it. Sometimes people just get fed up of waiting, and then they attack into it and hope that you don't have Omniscience. I actually had a guy saying the other day, well, hoping you don't have Omniscience, and I cast it, and he's like, okay, bye. He left. But sometimes you just get Future Sight because you just need to, like, have cards that you just don't have. So also can get you Treachery. That's another thing you can do. If you get Treachery out with this, you can steal any of their creatures, even if they have Hexproof or Shroud. Metamorph, another clone. It's an artifact. Cast it for 3 mana. You can cast it for 2 and 2 life. 2 mana and 2 life. You have Grand Arbiter. That's another thing to keep in mind. Muldrifter, obviously. Muldrifter is one of the best commons ever printed, and it works well with Venser. Duplicant. It's one of our removals. It's a little clunky at 6 mana, and it doesn't get any cheaper with Grand Arbiter. You could run like Phyrexian and Jester as well, or instead of this. Kind of up to you. I just already had Duplicant, so I threw him in there. And it does work with Venser, obviously. Arcanist. So Arcanist is pretty sick. With his Lightning Greaves, he gets insane. You can return him if you want to leave him up till 10 mana and protect him. But he's good with the Lightning Greaves, and also if you have Omniscience out, you can, with Lightning Greaves, you can cast him for free, put Lightning Greaves on him, draw 3 cards, bounce him if you have the mana, because you're not using it to cast him, and just keep doing that until you run out of mana. And he looks like a Jawa from Star Wars. He's pretty cool. Alright, Consecrated Sphinx draws you so many cards. My rule for Consecrated Sphinx Wars, if someone else has one, is you just always click yes and wait till they stop. Because you want to get your Reliquary Tower and find your Omniscience and stuff. And it'll be on their turn, so hopefully that works. Deadeye Navigator, he's not my favorite card in this deck. Like, he doesn't do a whole ton. You can combo him with him and Archaeomancer to get Time Warps and stuff. I might cut him at some point. There isn't that much to abuse him with, but he's still pretty good, so he's there. Sun Titan gets you back any of your lands, Strip Mine. Coalition Relic, if you have Jace Memory Adept, you can start mulling yourself with the +1 or even the 0 if you're really desperate to find a 3-drop that you want. Gets back Crucible Worlds that people might blow up. Anything that's 3 or less, and he's really good. Sphinx of Bethune, just a big flyer, and Factor Fiction. I don't have Factor Fiction, so I should probably have that in this deck. Drogskol Reaver. He cost 5 mana with Grand Arbiter on the battlefield, so you can play him the turn after you cast Grand Arbiter, which is really good. Just hope you don't get wrathed. So now our Planeswalkers. So we have Elspeth. The Indestructible emblem is pretty good. Some decks can beat you around it, but most of them can't. And the 1/1 tokens are good blockers. Jace. So Jace is just Jace. You can actually return your own Gilded Drakes. Cast Gilded Drake, steal their creature, and then return the Gilded Drake back. People really don't stay around. They don't stay around long after that happens, and understandably, Venser. The -1 is actually really good and rarely used, and the ultimate goal is to get to his emblem whenever you can't see it on that picture, so I'll zoom in here. Oh yeah, it's there. You get an emblem whenever you cast a spell, you exile a permanent, so That's just insane. Like that one emblem is just like probably the best ultimate, I would think. Yeah, I would think so. So Gideon protects your other planeswalkers, deals with creatures, and he's just a big guy. So Tamiyo's ultimate is also really good. Maybe it's better than Venser's, I don't know. With Tamiyo's emblem, Jace's 0 ability, I've had this happen quite a few times, becomes a draw 10, because you're milling the 10 cards into your library and you're just drawing them right away. So that's pretty awesome. You don't have to even worry about getting Jace ultimate. And speaking of Jace, so +1 is card advantage. The 0, you pretty much never use that, and the -7, you can get that off, and hopefully draw into Omniscience, and hopefully you have the mana to cast it and just go crazy. People usually leave after that. And then Karn. So Karn is just, it goes into pretty much most decks that can want to cast a 7-drop, so I haven't restarted the game in a long time. So that's kind of it. Not too long today, actually. So these are islands. I have the one Johnny Von Unhinged land. People like to rag on me for that, but I just like it. I just don't care. And then the plains. So these are the lands you can get with land tax. I do have a lot of non-basics. You could cut like Iganjo Castle and maybe Helmar Depths or Seacrom Coast if you wanted to have more basics in your deck to protect against Blood Moon and stuff. That's up to you. So cards you could add instead. I said Sphinx's Revelation. I would suggest this things you could add if you don't have certain ones of these cards or you don't like to play them. You could play 3-mana Jace, and I just got a 3-mana Jace. So 3-mana Jace is a card. This one. Target player draws a card. Each player draws a card, and the -10 is milling 20. You would just use him for the -1, and then when he gets to 1, you can plus him or just minus him again. Makes a combo with Sun Titan since you can come back. Also, you can minus him and then bounce him with Venser and bring him back to 3 loyalty. So that's another thing you can be doing. What other cards do I think you could run? You can run more counter spells. It's kind of like up to you. More spot removal, like Oblation. People really like Oblation. I really don't. You might want to run Spell Crumple if there are a lot of problem generals. I probably should. And then Factor Fiction. Other than that, I like this deck. It's really powerful. I'll show you the curve. There we go. It kind of pretty heavy in the 4-drop. So your 4-drop slot's pretty heavy. But that's good because you'll have a lot of options at that slot. If somebody's holding up a counter spell, or let's say they're holding up a removal spell, instead of playing your Grand Arbiter, you can play like Academy Rector, maybe Glenalendra. Although you usually want to cast Glenalendra on turn 5 or 5-drop, just so you can hold her up. I would suggest maybe cutting Snapcaster Mage because I have a low count for the instants of sorceries. Archaeomancer. Should probably just cut Archaeomancer for a little Jace. It's probably just better, but it's nice to have recursion. I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of the deck. Not running any of the guild gates or the refuges, like I said. But I like this deck a lot. It's probably my most fun deck right now that I like to play, just because I've played the other ones a lot. And I just like playing the Planeswalkers. You could also run like the smaller Gideon, but he's not that great. The 4-mana other Jace, what's he called? Architect of Thought. He's fine too. He's not the best, but he's fine. Also, he's less likely to get people to quit right away if you play him. But he was kind of expensive because he's being played in like standard, and he's like, I don't know, 14 tickets. So he's not. I don't think he's 14 tickets worthy in Commander. And yeah, I mean, you can kind of tweak it, but that's my deck. And if you have any questions, let me know. Also, I recently started streaming on Twitch.tv once in a while, so the stream is a little rough around the edges. But I'm gonna post a link. There's a link on my channel. I'll post a link here, but feel free to follow it and come watch and hang out if you ever want to play, or just watch live gameplay rather than a video. And I'll do that once in a while when I feel like, just playing a game, and it's kind of nice to interact with people. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.